This is Lee from the Law School Toolbox and the Bar Exam Toolbox.
Welcome back. Today we are welcoming Jennifer Berry, a member of the Law School Toolbox and Bar Exam Toolbox team, who is sharing some insights from her time as a bar exam grader. Well, you graded the bar for a good chunk of years. We know the California bar has some changes coming, although we're not going to spend time talking about that because we have a whole nother podcast coming out on that. And I don't even know what to say. So we'll just lay it to the side. But, yeah. So did you see while you were grading and now that you have also just been around this test for so long, do you think that the test or the answers themselves have been changing over time naturally, even before possible changes to the test?
Yeah. So I was looking back earlier pre the July this year exam and just looking at some of the older questions and some of them that were very long and very full of information, hard for a student or an exam taker to sort of parse through in an hour. And it does seem like there is a little bit movement towards questions that aren't so long, that are just a little bit more straightforward. They might bring in more law, more rules, but they maybe give you less stuff to work with. That was one thing that I kind of noticed in the differences. And just looking to, I had gone through to remind myself, since it had been a minute since I had thought about what I graded, to see like, what did I do all those years? And there were significant differences even from the like July 2006 one through looking through. I think I stopped in 2015. No, I stopped in 2017, but I stopped actually grading in about 2014. And there were differences between those as well in terms of the type of questions. And I think there's a mix of reasons that could be. It could be just where they were sourcing their questions from initially in the beginning versus where they were towards the decade later. And then it could also be the feedback over the testing period when they would be developing a question for a test.
Mm-hmm.
There would be, it was one of the things I did is would actually go take the test and give feedback. Like, this wasn't clear, or I hated this question, things like that. But,
Yeah, I remember on my bar, question number 3 in the morning session was a full page fact pattern. And I'm too much of a control freak, so I had to glance at all 3 of the questions to know what was coming. And I just remember like going, like, number 1, I think, was professional responsibility. And it was like a nice half-page fact pattern. And then the next one came and I was like, okay. And then the third one, I was like, what is this? Because it was like single space the entire page.
And it's like continued on next.
Yeah, you're like, what is happening? Why is this so long?
Yeah.
So I also agree. I watched that kind of cycle out, and I think that's nice because it does take a long time to even just read one of those fact patterns.
And
I remember thinking, and trying to create trap of it. And you can get the curve without a full page fact pattern. That's the reality, right?
Absolutely.
So they don't need that.
Yeah, I think that you can easily test a lot of different rules with carefully worded 1 or 2 sentence, fact pattern. Whereas the long ones they're trying to touch on a lot of rules, and they are, but now you only have like 1 or 2 facts that can go for every rule that they're touching on, and it becomes very difficult for, I think, the test takers to actually keep track, and so it is, my preference is the shorter, less facts, but more potential rules that could be brought up with those facts than intensive ones. But your story reminded me, there was one other thing to mention about mistakes I saw. Things that I think that student test takers need to be careful about, and that is not necessarily always answering your strongest subject first, or the one that seems the easiest, or being careful about the order in which you answer these 3 questions, because as a grader, I graded questions that were at any number of different places in the exam. There were be the first day, first question, or last day, last question. And you could often tell this essay where somebody left at the very end, and it's because they hate this subject and
Yeah.
they don't feel confident on it, and they ran out of time or it's rushed, But you could also tell the ones that were like, oh, this is my best subject, and I am going to just kill this one. And then they wrote and they wrote and they wrote forever. And that they probably scored amazing on my essay. And then they likely took too much time and didn't do so well too. And so you got to find that balance. So that's one of that things that I kind of wanted to reiterate, that I know people are told, but again, from a grader perspective, you can often tell what happened, what was going on with these.
Yeah. And if you bomb that last question, it mathematically does not work out. So it doesn't work out to do that. And I think that it really drives me crazy when students get lulled into that idea. Because you could steal a couple minutes from an essay. I definitely did that on my personal exam. And if you're like, oh, well, this is a meteor one, I'm going to steal like 2 minutes. But, it's got to be like 2 minutes, not 15 minutes.
Right. You can't get carried away just typing. And on the same vein, if it is something you know everything about, like, you do not actually need to tell me everything you know. Because that's not relevant. What's relevant is what's helpful.
And going back to the making the grader's job easier, reading a treatise is not easy. So that's like not making your job any easier.
Exactly. Exactly. It does. You do have to then sort through okay, this giant paragraph about the history of courts, and then where is there anything in this paragraph that is actually pointable? Can I actually give 5 points to this?
Right.
And so again, it goes back to not taking time from yourself, not taking points from yourself. This is your exam, so do yourself best favors.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please take a second to give us a like and leave a comment. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future content. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via the contact form at lawschooltoolbox.com. Thanks for watching.